Republican Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy wants you to work. Work if you die, well, I should say work until you die. Even if you're retired, even if you're disabled, you're unable to work, doesn't matter. If you want government benefits at all, you're going to have to work for them. On Tuesday, Kevin McCarthy recently pushed work requirements for all social safety net programs as part of his debt ceiling negotiations with President Joe Biden. Here's what he said.
What work requirements actually do help people get a job. Every data point shows that, and it helps people move forward. So the public wants it. Both parties want it. The idea that they want to put us into a default because they will not work with on that is ludicrous to me.
And you're talking about SNAP. What program are you talking about specifically?
Look, we're talking about all the programs because it helps people get into a job. And what does it mean when somebody gets in a job? They get better pay. They're able to buy their houses, but it also helps our supply chain going forward.
Yeah, we're talking about all the programs. All the programs. What, like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP? All of them? All the programs. He said all the programs are on the table for work requirements. So look, there's so much that's wrong with this, obviously, and so much of what he said that's not true. But let's get to the most obvious thing, right? Putting Social Security on the table and having work requirements for that. Social Security is, you've already paid for it. You worked your entire life to pay for it. That's what you get, the ability to retire with some measure of dignity. Now, that said, Social Security does not pay enough in benefits. No, Social Security needs to be expanded. There's very few politicians that are actually working to do that. One of them happens to be Bernie Sanders, whereas Republicans have been mainly pushing to cut Social Security by raising the retirement age, which is an effective cut in benefits. Now, for disability, disability, you get it if you are unable to work. I mean, that's pretty simple, right? Now, that said, there are situations where you can work while on disability. So now, generally, if you're on disability, it's because you can't do a full-time job. You have some sort of disability, obviously. So now people on disability can work and are encouraged to if possible. And there are programs to be able to help them do so. But again, it's only part-time. And generally, you have an income limit to how much you can make from substantial gainful activity. That's what they call it, SGA. And that limit is actually really low. Generally, on Social Security, you can only earn from your job around $1,400 a month. Anything above that is considered to be substantial gainful activity, and you get kicked off the program. You no longer get disability payments. So we're talking really, really, really low amount of income, especially if you're working in, or living in places like New York or LA, where it costs easily $3,000 to $4,000 for an apartment. Even with benefits and working that cap, you still can't even afford a home. You can't afford an apartment in New York City or LA as somebody on disability. So understand how low income you are on disability and how much you are limited in how much you can actually receive from disability, which can be anywhere from, I think, $1,000 to maybe $1,500 a month, depending. And there are different factors that, basically go to calculate how much you will earn, you will get from the disability program. But simply put, there are people that work on disability. There are people that can, but their earnings are often very, very low. And so people like McCarthy, though, they look at that and they say, we want everyone to work. Even if you can't, go ahead. We're still going to do work requirements. So now he says in that clip, Well, it helps people. It helps people get a job. No, it actually doesn't. It doesn't actually help people get a job. How does having work requirements help people get employed? But there's no evidence of that. There's no studies that show that. There's just nothing to back him up whatsoever. Now, on different programs, for example, Medicaid, usually they're not able to work because, well, generally due to things like childcare. For example, they're very low income. They can't afford childcare, or, they have some sort of medical issue. And for SNAP program, obviously, they don't have enough money to feed their families, even if they are working. And there are a large amount of people who are on the SNAP program, somewhere around 40%, that do work and receive benefits, but don't make enough from their jobs. Again, there's so many people that are on these programs that already work. Now, McCarthy also claimed that, again, forcing people who may not be physically or emotionally able to work, or who may have responsibilities that prevent them from being able to leave the house and get a job, somehow that helps the supply chain. How exactly? I mean, again, all of this is just absolutely ridiculous. Once again, Americans that generally take use these programs, a lot of them work. Again, 41% of SNAP recipients are working families. You have the obvious people that are on disability, that are disabled, that cannot work. And then we have an economy that basically is designed to not have full employment. I mean, again, that's literally how it's designed. We will never get to full employment. Anytime that we would get close, well, there would be a problem. In fact, look, right now we have the Federal Reserve that continues to raise interest rates in the hopes that it will increase unemployment, which they claim will force inflation downward, increasing unemployment. No, our economy is designed to have a permanent underclass of people who do not have jobs. If you require put a work requirement in for those people, and they can't get jobs, even when, by the way, jobs are available, but there are employers that do not want to fill said jobs. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. It does happen. Because why pay more for labor when you could just heap a bunch of responsibility on whatever employees you have? It doesn't matter if they burn out. We'll just hire another one. That's what's going on here. So, as a lot of you point out, the cruelty here is the point, putting work requirements on these people, because then, when they're not able to get a job, they're not able to get these benefits. And that's an excuse to cut those benefits so that they can give tax cuts to their donors, freeing up government money to send to already wealthy corporations. That's it. That's generally the plan. And it doesn't matter to people like Kevin McCarthy, other Republicans, how many people are actually hurt by this. Doesn't matter. Now, that said, bad news related to this is that Biden, while saying he's not going to accept work requirements that impact the medical health needs of people, he said it is possible that there could be a few work requirements put in, quote, but not anything of consequence. No, that is not what you're doing. That is not what you should be doing. You should be saying no work requirements whatsoever. They don't work. We have facts. We have studies to prove it. It is a non-starter. And I actually have to give a little bit of credit here to House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries, who said that it's a non-starter. Work requirements, non-starter. Now, look, I don't know if he's going to hold that position. Democrats, one of my main criticisms of them is they tend to fold, they tend to cave a little bit too easily to Republican demands, especially you have to understand this debt ceiling negotiations are just theater. It's political theater. And why do I say that? Well, how am I so sure that the government will not default on the debt? If Democrats were to say, I'm not going to negotiate at all, F off Republicans, non-starter, you're just going to pass a clean debt limit increase. That's the position I would go for. Now, if you listen to some, corporate outlets, they're like, oh, well, Joe Biden has to negotiate. He has to give the Republicans something. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have to give them a damn thing. And again, you know why? Because there is going to be a debt limit increase. It's going to happen. Because if it doesn't, it's going to crash the stock market. And you know who has a lot of money in the stock market? Members of Congress. You think that they're going to imperil their own stock portfolios? No. All of this is just theater. Negotiation. Oh, we got to negotiate with Kevin McCarthy. You don't have to negotiate a goddamn thing. You can just say, you're going to do it. I know why you're going to do it, because you're invested in the stock market. That's it. You have to do it. You can't just force us into your bullshit negotiations. No, I'm not having it. I'm not listening. Pass it now. They're not going to let the debt limit, they're not going to let the economy crash, because it's just going to crash again, their own portfolios, and they're never going to let that happen. But nonetheless, they're using it to try to get $4.5 trillion in cuts from poor people, from average working class people, cutting food stamps from 40 million low-income Americans. That's their plan, because again, it's the cruelty. The cruelty is the point.